Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another Q&A part. This might be part 20. Are we on part 20 now? That's like unprecedentedly long. Somebody commented on one of the other videos that I've been doing this since like the spring, maybe. I don't remember. It's been like since like April, maybe. I've been doing this forever, it feels like. And that's about right because, you know, it's the never-ending Q&A. So we are gonna do something we haven't done yet in this Q&A. We're gonna take a question out of order because people have been asking it over and over, very via various you know ways of asking me questions, and that is my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch. Um, I did see the video, the 3 minute video of the Switch, and looks good to me. I don't know. Um, I don't know what they're doing with it. Like, is this just like the all-in-one Nintendo product now? I don't know. Like, are they? I mean, is this their console and their handheld that they're doing? Is that like a thing? It's not exactly clear to me, but I guess that's what it is. So that's cool. I mean, because in all honesty, if it were just a console, I probably wouldn't have bought it. But if it's going to be the handheld, then I'm going to be relatively assured that games are going to come out for it. So buying it, it looks good, and I like the idea that I'll be able to play some, you know, AAA ports of games on a handheld, like just even though it's essentially a tablet with some slide-on controllers or whatever, but like that's cool with me. I'm good with that. Um, I don't know if it has a touch screen though. It might not. That would actually probably be a good thing, if only because it would, help keep the cost lower. And I'd like that. That would be good. No touchscreen. It would be kind of unprecedented for Nintendo, considering like they've been doing the touchscreen thing for like since the DS. But man, if it has no touchscreen, it'll probably be pretty cheap. I'm hoping it's less than $300. Um, like when it comes out, maybe 250. Um, it does. It seems unlikely though. It seems more likely that it'll be over 300. But whatever. I'm still excited for it. It looks pretty good, and if there's multiplats that come out, it's really likely that I would buy it on the Switch instead of like the PS4, even if it were a worse port. If only because like I'd be able to play it handheld. And that sounds stupid for some people, but I just prefer a handheld over being tethered to my TV. And I could play that stuff at work. I can play it on the train, whatever, all that stuff. So it means I'd get more gaming time in on bigger games. So Switch so far pretty good. I'm excited to see what gets announced for it because again, if it's just going to be Nintendo stuff, thumbs down for me. I'm not going to buy it. But if a relatively good amount of third parties start throwing out games for it, even if they're just ports, I'll probably get it. Let's see. So we're gonna go back to the actual questions now. We've got back to Mutant0079, who is we're in the middle of his current stream of questions. So next we've got, who's your favorite game artist and what's your favorite artwork for a game? For a game, okay. I really don't pay attention to the game artists. As bad as that sounds, like I couldn't name any game artists if you asked me to. I couldn't give you their name because I just don't care. Even though like I actually have art books from games, so it seems weird that I don't know any of the artists, but I just can't remember anybody's names. Um, but I think I prefer the demon design, the original demon designer for Shin Megami Tensei. I prefer those games the way they look. They have this kind of a really good style to them, and it's the same guy who did the work for like Maken X and Maken Shao, and what else did he do? Oh, like Devil Survivor and stuff like that. Those I forgot his name, but I think I really like that guy's art style. It's interesting to look at, and everything has like this weird kind of plasticky look to it, which I think is cool. Let's see. So next, what's your favorite Dreamcast games? That's Dreamcast. I've been playing a lot of Dreamcast recently. I don't know why. I just have it hooked up, and I like, when I think I just want to play something, I tend to pick up Dreamcast games. Um, but let's see. One of the games I play on the Dreamcast all the time, every time I have the Dreamcast out, I usually play Mr. Driller. It's just a puzzle game, but it's kind of in the Dig Dug series. You're actually like, I'm not sure which one Mr. Driller, I think, is the son of the guy from Dig Dug. Um, I'm I'm trying to think of what their names are. I think the guy in Dig Dug is maybe Horty Taizo, and then um, maybe the wait Horty. I think they're both named Horty, which is like a Japanese word for dig. Um, but maybe the one in Mr. Driller is Susumu, which is like continue digging, which is like the point of Mr. Driller. And I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure that's their names. If you've ever played Namco Cross Capcom, he's in there. He's one of the characters you can use in the game. I think that's Namco Cross Capcom. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think he was in Project Cross Zone. But that Mr. Driller is like a kind of underrated series, I think. Nobody ever talks about Mr. Driller except for maybe Doom Waves, from the AGP podcast, the another gaming podcast. It's like the only person I've ever talked to about Mr. Driller, because it's like the only person who's had any type of interest in it, and that's a really good Dreamcast game. It's on other systems too. You can get Mr. Driller on like PlayStation One and I think DS also, and maybe some other stuff. There's a bunch of those games in that series, so you know, it's a pretty good series. Um, what else do we have? If you ever played Desperia on the Dreamcast, it's kind of a weird cyberpunk RPG horror kind of thing going on. It's made by Atlas, and kind of it's kind of impenetrable if you don't speak Japanese, and I don't think there's any kind of translation for it. But it's a really good game because it's not it's kind of um, genre bending. Like, it doesn't have a clear genre to it. It's kind of like an adventure game, kind of an RPG, kind of a cyberpunk, kind of horror. It's pretty interesting. That's a really good one. I'm trying to think, of course, like standard stuff like Shenmue, and like Shenmue is like kind of a must-play game. Um, it's the kind of thing that's really groundbreaking at the time. And like a lot of, I think I've mentioned this before, but like when I had the Dreamcast originally, I played a lot of fighting games. So like your Marvel vs. Capcom and Street Fighter 3 and those kinds of things. Um, but now I don't. Those games are kind of released everywhere, so I don't even have them in my Japanese collection. I've never rebought those games on the Dreamcast because I got them already in other places, so it seems pointless. Um, I really like. There's like a bunch of strategy games. There's a kind of some FMV games on the Dreamcast. It's like the last gasp for FMV games on consoles with the old Dreamcast. There's some good stuff going on there. I mean, there's like that game I'm talking about is Web Mystery. I forgot to mention the name. Um, that there's a bunch of stuff like that. The Dreamcast doesn't have like this kind of huge library though. It's not. I mean, comparative to like the PS2 or something, like it's got a tiny library. But it's got a lot of the good Sega arcade stuff. So you've got your kind of House of the Deads and Crazy Taxi and Soul Calibur and stuff like that. And those are all good. But again, I think a lot of those you can get in other places now. So it feels like hard to recommend those, even though they're all great to play. I'm trying to think, what else do I have? I see Grandia 2 up there, but I don't. Again, I don't think that's only on the Dreamcast. Um, yeah, there are a bunch. There are a couple of RPGs on the Dreamcast that are good. There's like a Shiren the Wanderer RPG that is, you know, it's like a roguelike, but you use not Shiren in this one. It's Asuka is her name, right? Um, the kind of female Shiren in that game. That one's like a pretty good one. It's one of the more expensive Dreamcast games though, so like unless you're like a big fan of roguelikes, you probably don't want to drop the money to get that. Um, Capcom has like a 9-part RPG. It's 9 or 7, I can't remember. Um, that's a good series. It's that one's really good because like it has like characters split between the stories. So like sometimes characters from other parts will show up in different parts of the story. It's a pretty good game. There's like games like Evolution and stuff like that, which had like a crossover with the Game Boy, not Game Boy, the Neo Geo Pocket Color. That's pretty. That's pretty cool. The Dreamcast was way ahead of its time for stuff linking with like other companies' consoles. Like nobody does that. Um, so yeah, the Dreamcast has a lot of good stuff. Can't go wrong with the Dreamcast. I have almost all the games I want for the Dreamcast at the moment, but you know, there's like still like 3 or 4 games I have to get for that system before I consider like all the games I want for it to be bought, I guess. Let's see. Ooh, next is what's your favorite game covers? Like the artwork, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of any that I'm like super in love with. I'm sure there are some. Like I'd have to go through the games to look at them. Um, so you know, I like it. There's like these games on the Super Nintendo that are part of the Military Madness series, like um, their Lunar Strike, and there's like a part 2 that might have a different name with Lunar Strike. It's the Lunar Strike something, but like that one, there's one that has like this. It's like the quintessential kind of early late '80s, early '90s kind of science fiction wacky cover. I don't know how to explain it, but like it's pretty. I just like it because it kind of encapsulates a time period in my mind really well. Like when I saw it the first time, I thought like this is possibly the most perfect cover. So I'll go with that. Let's see. Next question is: do you think that you live a great life, and is there things that you do that you would do different in the past if you could? Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say I like live a great life. Like I don't. Um, if I had like a truckload of money or something, maybe I'd have a greater life. But you know, it would that would make things easier. Like I mean, if I had if I didn't have to work, that would be cool. But that's you know, generally not. But you know, in general, I don't think I live a bad life. I have a pretty, you know, I got friends, I got people I meet, I got things I like to do. I, you know, have a bunch of hobbies, a bunch of stuff that I like to make. You know, I'm not doing bad. I don't have any real like major issues. I'm not physically ill. Um, you know, I'm not like bedridden. I'm not like, um, you know, horribly deformed in some way. I don't know. Like, I don't have any real issues. So I feel like, you know, things are things are okay. Um, and like, are there things I wish I could have done different in the past? I'm sure there are. I don't have any clear examples though. You know, there's always situations in life where you're like, man, I shouldn't have been as big a dick as I was at that point. But it's kind of um, hard to even say like, you know, I should go back and change something, you know, because being a big fan of Ray Bradbury, like I always have that kind of butterfly effect kind of thing, you know, like where you, if one little thing is changed, like it can have like vast effects on the future. So it's the kind of thing where like I guess like there's things that I regret having had happened, but I don't know if I would change anything because, like, who knows what would happen in the event that something was changed. You know, like, would things be. I mean, I can think of things where, like, you know, um, I was, like, briefly engaged and, um, that kind of, like, blew up. But, like, one of the reasons I like even initially came to Japan was because I had like a ton of money saved up for that, and when it all blew up, I was just like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna just go somewhere. So I went to Tokyo, and like there, it was like, oh, I really like it here. I gotta come back, and then like it's like a chain of events that turned into that. So like, had I changed that one thing, like my entire life right now would be really different looking. So, you know, what do you do? Like, how do you change this kinds of things? Let's see. So next, what's your favorite Japanese only games for the Mega Drive? You know, I think a lot of my favorite Mega Drive games are on say on a Mega CD and not on the Mega Drive itself. Like, I don't have like a um, Mega Drive collection going on. I have like two games for the Mega Drive because you know it's not exactly common to find Mega Drive games in Japan. It wasn't. It was like so unpopular. It was like less popular than the PC Engine was, and you don't really find a lot of those things. And like the only games I have right now are Fantasy Star and Langrisser, I think. But I'm trying to think. I mean, everything else I have is a Sega CD game. So, I mean, I guess I could go with those, but like, if you've ever played, like, Illusion City is one of my favorites because it's this kind of like awesome cyberpunk RPG. Um, that one was, it's a port actually from a piece from PC, but it's still a pretty damn good game, and it is only on the for consoles. It's only on the Sega CD. Um, so yeah, I guess I mean that's probably one of the best I'd say. You know, there's lots of weird stuff on the Sega CD that's like Japanese only. Like there's like if you ever played the Laughing Salesman game, it's interesting if you've seen the show. I mean, it's just weird otherwise, and it's like kind of you know just a story. You know, you're just kind of clicking through a story and getting different results, but if you've seen the show, it's interesting only because, like, in the game, you can get alternate endings to the show, which is kind of funny. But, yeah. So, maybe that? I don't know. Okay, next is your least favorite or most hated aspect of the Yakuza series. Um, you know what? There's not a lot that I dislike about Yakuza. The only thing I can think of that could be better is like maybe implementing some kind of. And now that I think about it, this might actually be a thing that I just never use, but like an easy way to check like the status of people in the story. So, for example, there's usually a lot of characters that are new that get introduced throughout the game, and like many times, like a lot of people will show up, and you know you I just have a hard time keeping track of everybody. So sometimes like somebody will show up again later in the game, and you're just like, who is this guy? I totally forgot. It would be nice to be able to like just highlight their name in the text or something, and just like pull up like here's what this dude did before, because like it would be you know it'd help keep track of everybody better. That's the only real issue I have with the game. I think like everything else about it is really fun. Um, I have like a bit of a runny nose today, so I'm gonna be just wiping my face a bit because you know you don't want snot running out of my face. But that's about it for Yakuza. I don't know have any real issues with that game. I think it's pretty great the way it is, and like even when they change things and take things out and add things in, it almost always is good. So I always feel like, you know, I'm assuming that in the next game there's not going to be taxi cab races, and I think like they were really good in 5, but like if it's not there, they'll replace it with something else, and I'll be absolutely just as fine with that. I think it's just going to be it's just such a good series overall. And next is a similar question. So, what is your least favorite or most hated aspect of the Dark Souls series? Um, you know what? Dark Souls has a thing where recently, like for the latest games, like I just haven't been able to get into them enough. Not get into them enough because I really enjoyed them all, but like I haven't been captured by them enough to go back and play the DLC, which usually comes out way later. And so like from like I didn't play Dark Souls 2 or Bloodborne DLC. Like never bought it, and I had planned on like just getting the kind of box edition that usually comes out in Japan, but like even then I still haven't. So I don't know what it is. It's not there's not like a huge issue, but it's kind of like one of the big things is that it just they kind of all got released again a little too quickly. So you get a bit of I don't know, a little bit of a series burnout. Not to the extent of something like Assassin's Creed, but like I think like it probably would do them little bit better, and I think they realized this to not make some games for a little while in that series. As much as I like them, you kind of get a bit burned out. So let's see. Next is what's your most crazy or awkward situations in Japan? Um, I don't know. I think like I've told a bunch of the stories before. So like I've been in the standing in the middle of like a gang fight or whatever, where people were like fighting on the train platform, and like people got thrown onto the tracks and stuff, like from like it's pretty high height. It's a couple feet off the ground. It's not like right you're not on the same level as the tracks. So um there's a a bit of stuff where like stuff like that would happen, and I've been to like some weird ass events, like parties and things where like shit gets crazy. And I've seen some like really weird shows, but like I don't want to go into. I mean, it's a little not suitable for work, so it's the kind of thing where I probably shouldn't talk about it on my channel. Um, but let's see. Next question is your most wanted unreleased game, like canceled game such as Star Fox 2 or Mega Man Legends 3. My most wanted unreleased game is definitely Fallout 3. And then, I mean, you're thinking, like, that game came out. But no, I'm, like, thinking the Van Buren game, the game that was the original Fallout 3 that, like, they started making and then it was canceled. Um, that seems to be the most, that's, like, the one that comes to my head immediately. Just because like it's even worse is that you can kind of go in and play a bit of that. There's a way to play like the kind of first little bit of it that they made, and it feels like Fallout, like a better Fallout 2, and you're just kind of like, man, this could have been so good. And I liked Fallout 3. It's not like I didn't like it. It's just like it was so different and not the Fallout 3 that I wanted. Even though it's good, I mean, I really like it. I love the Fallout series, and I love Fallout 3, but the Van Buren one would be it's right up my alley, I think. So next, what console do you wish had succeeded? Um, I guess out of failed consoles. Um, what would have been a console that I think never really got off the ground when it probably could have was the Atari Jaguar. And that game, the problem with the Jaguar was that, well, I mean, nobody bought it, but like nobody made games for it either. So it's the kind of thing where like who knows what that system could have done, because it was like for the time like a pretty powerful system. And I mean, it could have done a bit more than it definitely could have done more than what people gave it. So I mean, there's games on the Jaguar that are good. It's not like there's no good games on the system. It's just that, you know, I don't think a lot of people gave it a chance, and it didn't sell well, so it makes sense that nobody's gonna like dump money into developing their game for the Jaguar. But like, that one is kind of a missed opportunity. Um, there's other things like the Neo Geo Pocket Color could have been like that. That one would have been a much better system if it were backlit. I think like that's like the only thing. And I mean, I realized they wanted to make it cheap, so like they didn't do the backlighting, and then like Game Boy Advance had the backlighting later on, not at first, but later on, and that basically killed Neo Geo Pocket Color. Like there was nobody who was going to buy one of those anymore after you could get a backlit SP or whatever. So it's just kind of, you know, you don't have any real options there. That system has a lot of good games. There's a lot of cool stuff on the Neo Geo Pocket Color too, but just, you know, it never really had a chance, which is, you know, kind of sad. You know, I wouldn't actually put the Dreamcast in this category because I don't feel the Dreamcast was unsuccessful. Obviously, it's unsuccessful comparatively, but like it sold like millions of units. You know, it's not exactly a complete failure. It just, you know, wasn't a massive success either. But the other systems I mentioned are kind of failures. The Jaguar is a total failure, but I think it could have been so much better. The Master System is one that's kind of a failure that could have done way better if not for Nintendo's, you know, shady licensing deals. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that the Master System is a better system than the NES is. I mean, it's more powerful. It's got more colors. It's just a better system. It just didn't have the games to back up the better system, and that's too bad because like that one would have been much better. Like I always used to play the Master System. I never owned one when it was out, but like there was a big demo unit in a store near my house, and I used to go and play it all the time. It was just a really good, I don't know, it was just a really good system. But, you know, again, it just lacked games. I mean, that's kind of I guess why most systems fail is that they lack games. Like, you know, it's even kind of repeating itself with the Wii U, where, you know, Wii U has kind of maxed itself out. There's just nobody is going to buy it. There's not like a huge amount of people who are like still raring to buy a Wii U because there's just no games coming for it. And that's like, you know, I mean, I had a Jaguar when it was still being sold in stores. Like I got it when it was still being supported. And, you know, I'm no stranger to buying systems and being disappointed with the amount of games coming out for it, but, you know, you get that feeling again just recently, so it's kind of so I guess I can add the Wii U to that list. I wish that was more successful, if only because like it would have given me some more games to play on the system, which I like. I mean, I don't have any issues with the Wii U as a system. I just don't like that nobody put out any games for it. So let's see. Next is, what's your favorite Kamen Rider and Ultraman game? I assume you mean each one from each of those series and not like a crossover, because there are crossovers, but like you know, for the Ultraman games it's really easy because there's one on the PlayStation 2 that I talked about in my PlayStation 2 collection video that I did recently. It's just called Ultraman, and it's kind of like, it runs through the classic series. So it starts with Ultra Q, and you're fighting monsters, and you're like, you know, it's basically you're set in this kind of arena battle, and the characters are really big, and you're just doing kind of Ultraman moves, and like the rounds are limited to, like the fight is limited to 3 minutes. You can't go over 3 minutes or you lose, which is, you know, solid for the Ultraman. So, but I think it works in a lot of ways that the other games don't. Like they're too trying to be fighting games, whereas this one is like more trying to play out a real Ultraman battle, and it works so well that it just hands down becomes the best Ultraman game. As far as Kamen Rider games, though, there's a bunch of those that I like. and some that are really not so great. But maybe I'm gonna go with the all Kamen Rider generations, if only because that it's I mean it's kind of like a simple side-scrolling beat 'em up, but you just get so I think I get a lot of enjoyment out of it because you get to use all the riders from like all types of there's like so many of them, and you get to use all of them and you're doing the stages, and it's just kind of a simple beat 'em up. It's not even really that in depth. There's lots more in depth Kamen Rider games, but those games are really fun, and I think like there's a new one coming out, or maybe next month, um, and I'll probably get that too because I think like the all Kamen Rider Generations games tend to be pretty fun. Um, but if you're talking about a crossover between those two, like one of the Kanpachi Heroes games, like that recent one that came out on the Vita and the PS3, maybe it's Superhero Generations. That one was really really good. Like it's like one of the games I went out of my way to get a platinum trophy on because it was just so fun. Like I didn't mind playing it over and over again. Let's see. Next question: what's your favorite or most memorable experiences playing with a person in the same room? I don't know. Like all of my playing games with people experiences are usually from arcades. So, and they're usually just fighting games when you're playing against people for like in an arcade. It's always really fun to be really good at a fighting game. And like I used to hang out at the arcade all the time, and I had a friend who worked there who just gave us free game tokens. So like at the arcade, you have to exchange money for tokens to use the machines, and he'd just give us like a sack of tokens. I had thousands of tokens. Like I could have went to the arcade every day and played for free. Um, like I never ran out of tokens. I probably still have tokens. And that arcade is gone, but I could still have their game tokens because I had so many. But the we used to go there all the time, and like because I was there so much, like other people who would come, like you have a reputation as like how good you are and stuff, and like so like there's points where you like go to the arcade and they'd be like, oh, people would see you come in and they'd be like, oh, there's some guy over there who's really good, you gotta go fight him. And that it's like that kind of thing. So like um I met a bunch of people at the arcade. I met people I never would have met, like people who were totally different that are still my friends today from the arcade days. And like it's interesting because like the friends I met from the arcade are more diverse than like my like normal friends, I'd say. So like you know almost like a big chunk of the people I met through the arcade were like, I guess, non-white, I guess. So like like blacks and Asians mostly, because that's kind of like what is around my area. But like in that point, and there was things like weird stuff that happened at the arcade where I met I think I've told this story. There was like a dude who we used to call the Tekken King, and the Tekken King was this dude, and like I know I've told this story. I might have told it in this Q&A. I might have told it somewhere else. I don't remember. But the Tekken King was just the dude who was really good at Tekken, and me and my friends, like, we didn't play Tekken that much. We were just like all mostly Capcom dudes. But like every once in a while we played Tekken, and like the Tekken King would come over and always beat us. And he had a toady. He had a friend who would like the Tekken King never really said anything, but like he had a friend who was like his hype man. He was like his kind of like a little. Have you ever seen what's it called? The Christmas Story, where like I think that the little dude who's friends with the bully. Who it was like that. I think that kid's name is Grover or something in the Christmas Story. But like Scott Farkus's little friend, the toady. That's he had a toady like that, and he would just constantly try to like talk smack, but he'd never play. So it was the kind of thing where just like we called him the Tekken Toady and the Tekken King, and so we later on, like I found out that the Tekken King is my cousin. So which is really weird. Like it's totally strange because like I had no idea, but like later on, like oh yeah, he's my cousin. That's strange. So it's that kind of thing where like that's like one of it's like not exactly related to the game, but like I for somebody I only knew as the Tekken King, like eventually I found out like later on was my cousin. Strange. So let's see. Last question from the old the old mutant here. I'm gonna move something. I had a message on my screen. I can't see the time. There we go. Um, what's your longest hours playing in one sitting? Oh wait, this isn't the last question. There's two questions. Okay, what's your longest hours playing in one sitting is the question. That's kind of strange. How long what's the longest amount of time I've played a game for one sitting? That's Jesus, man. Keep getting these messages on my phone. Stop. Um so let's see. Longest I played, there was a point where I played probably Fallout 3 maybe for like 18 hours maybe. I just like spent an entire day like lying on the couch playing Fallout 3. Um this is like when I first got Fallout 3, when I just like was so happy to be back in the world of Fallout that I was just, kept playing that over and over again. Fallout 3 is like I played so many times. I just played it so much. I spent like a month playing that game every day for hours and hours. So that's probably it. I never played, like people who do like 24-hour streams, I could never do that. I tend to not play games for long stretches of time. Um, how I usually play games, and like this is awful for if I'm like gonna be streaming. Like the sun got cloudy or something, it got really dark in here for some reason. But the I tend to play games like in hour chunks, sometimes like half-hour chunks. Go play a game for a half hour and then like turn it off and do something else and then come back. So it seems strange, but like for something like like was recently playing Persona 5. Like I'd play Persona 5 for like an hour and then I'd shut it off for 15 minutes or a half an hour and do something else during that time and then come back and play something different. Well, I mean play the same game, but never really play for a long time. So like when I do streams, it's really hard for me to do a stream for a long time. Even though like when I stream, I usually play for a long time. It's the kind of thing where after like a couple hours, I feel like I want to turn the game off and stop and do something else. I just don't. So like doing it like 5 or 6 hour stream, which I've done, is like it's kind of like I really have to be in the mood to do that because otherwise it's not gonna be possible. I'm gonna like give up after an hour or two because I'm just want to do something else. It's bad for streaming, I guess, but it's just generally how I play. It's good for things like when I play games on the Vita or the DS. Like I love those because like I can just hit a button and suspend the game and then come back. Close the clamshell and come back. It's really good for my kind of play style. It's really bad if the game crashes though, because I'll usually lose like hours and hours of stuff. But you know how it is. So last question is, could you do a review of that awesome vacuum cleaner of yours sitting in the background? And that would be this vacuum cleaner. Um, it's not a very good vacuum cleaner, actually. It's like one of those whirlwind vacuum cleaners, though. So like you can, when it goes, you can see like the kind of dirt and dust or whatever it's picking up in the thing spinning around like a little tornado. But it doesn't have a built-in brush, so like it's terrible for carpets. Not that I have carpets, I have wood floors in my apartment, but like I have a carpet. My previous apartment had carpets, which means that thing sucked. I mean, it's a vacuum, it sucks, but like, you know what I mean? It was terrible at picking up stuff from the carpet, so like it could never get hair off the carpet, for example. Because that stuff just gets kind of stuck in there. But like now it's much better because like on the wood floor it picks up everything. It's not like too weak. It's just bad on carpets. So I don't feel so bad about it anymore. But like previously, it was not so good. So yeah, let's see. We got more questions. I'm gonna keep moving these messages. Okay. Okay. So next we've got Gideon S. And he's asking, oh, these are some questions that are almost not, they're not video game related for the most part. Let's see. So he's saying, I heard you mention Warhammer before, so I'm asking, do you play or just collect? Um, well, I don't really do either at the moment. I haven't bought any Warhammer stuff for a while. Um, but, you know, I'm building armies. Like, I stopped playing Warhammer for a really long time, and then I started up playing again. Like, I started up buying models to play again, and I was building armies. And what happened was, I have a this is the next question. If so, do you play 40k or Fantasy / Age of Sigmar? And what armies do you collect? I'm going to go into that, all of that in this answer, because at first I was starting to play. You know, I've always preferred Fantasy to 40k. I don't know why. And then like, when I started back up, it was like a couple of weeks before Age of Sigmar came out. And so I was like, well, I gotta wait. I can't start an army and then like have a new rule set come out and just totally screw me on what I'm building. So like, you know, I put that off, and then what's it called? Cult Mechanicus came out for 40k, and I was like, well, that's fucking awesome. I guess I'm gonna start a 40k army in the meantime. So I like bought all this Cult Mechanicus stuff, and I started painting that. And I really like the Cult Mechanicus, but the reason, like, I started building it, and I have like like half of the army built, and then was like, oh, and then I started hearing rumors like they're bringing back Gene Stealer cults, and I thought, oh well, that's what I want to play. When I originally played 40k, I was playing in 40k second edition, and second edition, when you had Gene Stealer cults, which is like this kind of cool thing where like Gene Stealers invade you know, like populations of other creatures, and they like slowly transform them into Gene Stealers. So like there's all these kind of like weird mutants, half human, half Gene Stealer things, and I always thought that was the coolest thing. So like when I played 40k originally, I always played Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer cult, and that's essentially, it's in 40k second edition. It was Tyranids, but like most of Tyranid's army was just Gene Stealers, and like Tyranids were really expensive, so you'd get like 3 of them, and then you'd get like, and there's only kind of like one type. There was no flying ones or whatever. You'd get like one big red Tyranid, and then you'd get a ton of Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer cult and stuff like that. At least that's how my army was. I got all these messages. Jeez, Jesus, they keep coming up. But the Gene Stealer cult, when I heard that was coming, I was like, well, I can't like get 2 armies. I'm not made of money, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna put off the Mechanicus stuff, and I'm gonna wait for Gene Stealer cults to come out. So in the meantime, I'm gonna build an Age of Sigmar army. So I stopped buying my Mechanicus stuff, and I started buying Skaven. And I've always liked Skaven too. So like when I used to originally play Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and this is 3rd edition, I think was the edition we were playing. It's probably 3rd edition. That's what I think. I had 3 armies then, and this is like when I'm in middle school, and the armies weren't so expensive then. But I had an undead army, a chaos army, and a Skaven army. And those are my favorite armies, I think. So when I was like looking at the new army books and stuff that came out, I was just like, well, what am I gonna play? I mean, I don't know anything about these new armies, but so I thought like, well, I'm just gonna go with what I like. and what I like is Skaven. So I'm gonna. Well, actually, what I would have played if it hadn't been like kind of taken out would have been Slanesh Chaos. That's my favorite Chaos Slanesh. Is they're kind of like um, Hellraiser sex gods or whatever. That's the one I'd go for. But instead, I decided because like Slanesh was kind of taken out in Age of Sigmar, I was like, well, I guess what I'll do is I'll play Skaven with Slanesh allies and build that. So like I have these kind of Skaven. I got a Skaven army that I built that's painted like purple and white, like a Slanesh army. So all their clothes are purple and white, like they're part of Slanesh. And then I have like Slanesh demons teaming with them. So it's kind of a weird Skaven army. It's not like a standard Skaven army because most people who are picking Skaven are gonna pick a Nurgle kind of allies because they're keyword matched, but also like they're thematically matched. Whereas I was like, Nurgle is cool and all, but Slanesh is the way to go for me. So I did that. So that's my armies currently. I haven't played any games though because I haven't finished my complete armies. So it's the kind of thing where I just haven't painted them. It's not. I have the Skaven army I bought. Like I have it all. I just haven't painted and put it together. And I'm still waiting on Genestealer cults to get all the stuff released before I start buying those. But once I get those set up, once I get like once Genestealer cults is done, I'm gonna be like all over that. And there's a bunch of places to play in Tokyo, so it's not that bad. I'm just, it's the kind of thing where I need, just need time to put it all together and paint and, money to buy those things because they're really expensive now. Like I remember when I was buying my armies originally, it was just like $2 or $3 a pack or something, and you'd get like 1 or 2 miniatures, and like that's cool because like when you're a kid, you just you get like $20 or something, and you're just like, well, I just got like a new unit. I'm rocking things now, but like now, man, if you want to buy a unit of stuff in Warhammer 40K, you're like spending a minimum of like $60 or $70, and that's like for 3 plastic models or something. You're just totally. It's a little crazy on the costs, but it's slow going. But eventually, I'll show off my Genestealer cult and Skaven armies, and like I guess I could work it so that I can team my Cult Mechanicus and Genestealer cult together. As long as I don't like put them next to each other on the table, like put them away from each other, they should be fine. It probably won't be a very good army that way, but at least I can use those models I bought. So yeah, let's see. Next we've got 222277, or maybe it's 222277. I don't know. I don't know how you want me to pronounce that. But here are some questions. Talk about your thoughts on Dragon Quest and Dragon Quest in Japan in general. So let's see. Dragon Quest is not... It's not my series. Like, I don't play a lot of Dragon Quest. I'm not interested in Dragon Quest, so like when they announce a new Dragon Quest, I'm not hyped or anything. I'm just like, oh, more Dragon Quest, woo. I almost never play those. I haven't played that many. I think maybe in the last video I talked about this a bit more. But, like, I've only played a couple of Dragon Quest games, and I kind of understand the appeal of them. They're not for me. And not even that. That's not even like they're not for me. I haven't had a bad time with any of the Dragon Quest games I played. I just feel like, why do I have to keep playing the same kind of game over and over again is how I feel. Like, I want to play something kind of different, I think. Something more evolved. And it doesn't really do that much in Dragon Quest. And it's not that it doesn't change. It doesn't get better over time. It does. But it's not significant and different enough where I feel like, yeah, it warrants me buying another one. So... But in Japan, Dragon Quest is huge. It's, like, gigantic. Everybody loves Dragon Quest. Everybody knows Dragon Quest. It's the kind of thing where, like, totally understand why they only released the Dragon Quest MMO in Japan, because there's probably enough people who still play it to make it worthwhile to be up. I'd guess. Like, I don't know why they didn't release it outside, actually. It would be probably better for them if they did, but who knows? So let's see. What's the collecting scene like for collector's editions of games as opposed to just the game? Does it all end up being just unwanted junk in Japan? I don't know, because like I've seen collector's editions for some things at shops. Damn it, stupid messages! Stop coming. That's the problem with being parts of groups in group conversations, where like these fucking messages just keep coming up. So many. Just give me like one big message here. But like collector's editions are usually a bit more limited than for the most part than you'd see in the US. So like there's some collector's editions that are always come out every year and they're really expensive, and then like you'll see them like the next year for like $20 as opposed to like 150 that they were originally. Like those are for like the Dynasty Warriors games though. They always make too many of those huge treasure boxes. So like they always come out and they're big and expensive, but there's always too many of them, and you can get them cheap way later if you're interested. But for the most part, the collector's editions tend to, they tend to like be a bit more valuable, at least in Japan. So, I don't know, like you don't usually find collector's editions that have come out at shops or anything. They tend to sell out pretty quickly, and then people just hold on to them, I guess. I don't know what it is, but like, I haven't seen, there's collector's editions of things that came out that I would have been interested in, but I've just never seen them at a shop afterwards. Like it's kind of some things where you just like need to get that right away, or you're never going to see it again. So, but I don't really know, because I don't ever really collect collector's editions unless it's something like insane that I really want. So like in my entire collection, I have like 10 collector's editions maybe out of like thousands of games. I can, even for games I really like, I usually don't buy a collector's edition unless there's something awesome. But and like out of everything that I want for collector's editions, the only thing I don't have that I would actually really want for a collector's edition is the Fallout 3 lunchbox with the bobblehead. I'd like that. I would actually put that up somewhere in my house. But it's just, where am I going to find it? So let's see. Last question. This will probably be the last question. It's a really short one. No, maybe I can do one more. Let's see. What percentage of the games that you own have you beaten and seen the credits roll? Let's see. It's a vast majority, especially for more recent games too. So like for my like my Xbox 360 games, like it's like 95%, I'd say. For like PS3 and like any like recent console, like any of those, I've played those. I beat almost every game I buy. And the games I don't beat, the games that are unbeaten behind me, are games that either like I bought as part of a group of games and I just haven't gotten to yet, or like I just didn't like and I stopped playing. And the games I've beaten and the games I own will never be 100%. If only because like some games I'm never going to go back to, where it just like I didn't enjoy it enough to. And like I know people sometimes sell those games, but I like to keep those games because like it reminds me of like it's kind of a reference for talking about other games. So when you have a game that you've played that's bad, I know some people are just like, well, it sucks, I'm not going to keep it in my collection. But like usually I buy a game and I think like, well, that wasn't that good, but let me keep it and remember these specific bad parts. So like then I can go back to it later on and say like, oh yeah, this is why this sucks, and this is why this other thing sucks too. They didn't learn the lesson from this game or whatever. It's that kind of thing. It's helpful as a reference for me. It's like the point of having a library is that like, not even just games. I'm talking about books here. The point of having a book library is that like even if you read every book in the library, you're not going to be able to reference it all. Not from the top of your head. You're not going to be able to remember the content of every book. Like if you read the dictionary, the entire dictionary, you're not going to remember every word. So like the thing with having games that you've played, like the reason I've never actually sold a game. I've never sold a game at a store. I've given away games to people I know, but I've never sold a game to a store because generally, like good or bad, I tend to keep it as part of a library. Um, it's the kind that kind of thing. So like for most games that I play, I tend to play through them entirely unless they're awful or I just hate them. So the percentage of games that I beat as is pretty high. Like for the stuff behind me though, it's there's some stuff that I haven't beaten yet, obviously. So I have backlog of stuff that I haven't played, but I'll go out and say it's probably about 85% that I've beaten. It's not a small percentage, and like the stuff I haven't is just stuff I haven't gotten to yet. So eventually it'll get mostly beaten. So let's see. Okay, this will be the last question. It's from BB Rhino 100. As a follow up to my last question, what did you not enjoy about Final Fantasy XII? Final Fantasy XII to me was kind of just bland. It felt like the kind of thing where like they took out a lot of the kind of strategy of battle. So I always felt like Final Fantasy XII was like the kind of beginning of the and it's not exactly true. I mean, there's not no strategy to it, but it feels like less strategic. It feels like more of a mash A to win kind of battle system. And like it's obviously that's a gross oversimplification, but it's a lot more simple than previous games. And I understand people like that, but not I don't. I'd like to have games that it's like hard. I don't know what it is, but like if you're playing a game, for example, there's games like Etrian Odyssey where you'll play and like you can't really auto battle any battle until unless you're like way more powerful, or if you're like playing Shin Megami Tensei or something, like it's hard to auto battle some battles because like there's things that will screw you up if you do that. Like not every battle, some you can get through, but sometimes you'll get into a battle where it's like the enemies are 20 levels lower than you, but they'll still beat you if you go on auto battle because of like, maybe they have like some kind of reflection ability that just will like do damage to you from your own attacks and you'll just like kill yourself by accident by auto battling. That happens, or like sometimes they have like auto kill spells or something, so you have to like take out people in certain orders and stuff. And if you do it in auto battle, it won't do that, and you'll just get wiped out. That happens in those games, and I think like in Final Fantasy 12 especially, like I never felt that kind of like worry about fighting stuff. And like I mean that's kind of a fair complaint for Final Fantasy overall, but like especially for 12 it just felt like so much less. And I really didn't like any of the characters, and I thought like the way that the kind of things worked, like the message board system, like the bulletin board system or whatever, was lame. And I don't know, I just didn't like that game. I just couldn't play that game. And I mentioned that I like Revenant Wings, which is weird because like I don't like the characters in Revenant Wings, that's true, but I like the way that game played. And I say that now because I remember beating Revenant Wings and thinking that was pretty good. I should go back and play that again just to double check if it was like recently someone was telling me how much they hated Revenant Wings, and I was thinking like, well, this guy's usually like pretty spot on with stuff. Maybe I'm misremembering Revenant Wings. I should go back and play that again. But yeah, Final Fantasy 12 was like that's a game that I have that I never beat. I'll never beat that. I'm never going to go back and play Final Fantasy 12 again. But yeah. So yeah, that's it for this time. I think that was episode 20. Might be more than that. I don't know. But you know the deal. If you got more questions, ask them below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So see you next time.